Is Kentucky going to get their leading scorer back? Well, we might not know the answer to that for a while.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be discussing Otega Oweh's most recent developments regarding him in the NBA draft. Also, on today's episode, I'm going to tell you why Kentucky might have the best defense in the SEC next season. And then to wrap up the show, we've got a very interesting portal contact. Kentucky reaching out to a player that, frankly, I don't know if they could get playing time on next year's squad, but I certainly think they would be at least an interesting addition to the team. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. You can turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. You can head to Amazon.com/FireTVLockedOn to learn more. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, would greatly appreciate it if you subbed to the show. If you're listening on podcast, would love it if you subscribed there as well. All right. Let's go ahead and get into it. Otega Oweh is officially an early entrant in the 2025 NBA draft, according to various sources. You can find this on KSR. You can find this over on 24/7 Sports. The NBA announced early Tuesday morning a list of players that are going to be filing as early entry candidates for the 2025 NBA draft. Otega Oweh is on that list. It's 106 players, which I do want to take a second here and just acknowledge the fact that last year it was almost 200, if I'm not mistaken. A couple of years before that, it was like over 300 players that had entered their name into early entry candidacy for the NBA draft. NIL is doing good things, keeping players in college, and honestly, I think it's good for the sport because of the different opportunities that kids can have while they are still in school, being able to make money, being able to financially secure some things now, knowing that they're not going to be a possible NBA draft selection down the line. It's security now, and I think it allows for some more fun, high-quality college basketball to be played if there's more experienced kids consistently across the country. Now, you can say what you want about the high flyers, the top recruits, I guess, every year in, year out, and what they're able to contribute to the sport, which is great. I think that's awesome. I think you're going to see those guys consistently still be a factor, but the guys that weren't the high stars, the guys that weren't the best available for some of these blue blood schools, to be able to say, hey, look, you're going to be able to get guaranteed at least a six-figure contract at a Power 6 school, and you're going to be able to stay here for a couple of years, develop under a really solid coach. I think this is all very good for the sport. And you start to look at what Kentucky wants to do here over the next several seasons, however long Mark Pope's going to be here. And you see, yes, you want the blend. You want the recruits, you want the high flyers, you want the top prospects in the recruiting cycle, but you also want to be able to get guys like Otega Oweh to buy into the program for multiple seasons. And he, I believe, is going to be coming back to Kentucky, but we won't know that officially for, I think, a while. According to KSR, college players who wish to maintain their eligibility will have to withdraw from the pool of players by Wednesday, May 28th. The 2025 draft is set for obviously June 25th through 26th. I think that's at the Barclays Center, if I'm not mistaken. But we've got an entire month until Otega Oweh could announce that he's coming back. We went through this a couple of seasons ago with Oscar Tshiebwe, where the back and forth, the freak out of is he coming back, is he not? Should he come back? Should he leave? Should he stay? What should he do? Should he transfer elsewhere? Otega has two options. First of all, he can't enter the transfer portal at this point, so he's either coming back to Kentucky, he's playing another season in Lexington, or he's going to enter the NBA draft. I believe right now, according to ESPN, he's the 77th player on their big board. If I had to bet right now, he's not getting drafted. If he is, it's going late second round. We talked about this on the show already. You can go and find the show. I think it was one of the most recent ones we did, where we talked at length about why Otega Oweh should return to Kentucky. I think it's a better situation financially. I think a season coming back to Kentucky can do nothing else other than benefit him. I think the cast that's surrounding him this season is going to be a little bit better in terms of what Kentucky actually wants to do on offense and defense, and we're going to talk about that defense in a second, but I think he's going to look better in this system with this new cast of characters surrounding him and some guys returning, obviously. Oweh should return. He should return, but we don't know if he's going to come back, at least not yet, and we're going to have to wait a while to get an official answer on that. I will be shocked if he stays in the draft. If he does, though, Kentucky's got options. I mean, specifically international options. Kentucky's got so many different kids that they could reach out to. Some really good shooters that have entered into the college ranks here over these past several days. None mentioned by name because Kentucky hasn't contacted them yet. But Kentucky needs their backcourt star back. And frankly, they need their backcourt period back because Jalen Lowe has also entered his name into the early entries here for the 2025 NBA draft, testing the waters as well, something I did not even realize until the news broke earlier today. So Otega is an early entrant. Jalen Lowe is an early entrant. Kentucky needs to get their 1-2 punch in the backcourt back pretty badly, because if they don't, you start to have some questions about what Kentucky's going to do at guard, and I expect both of them to come back. I'm not sitting here saying it's gloom and doom time, let's all freak out, but at least it's something to keep your eye on as we wade into the month of May, where we're starting to see the portal maybe settle down a little bit. We'll talk about the portal a little bit later on the show, but first I want to tell you why Kentucky might have the best defense in the SEC. We'll get to that here in just a second. Before we do it, though, I'll tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. There is nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every single bucket, every stop, every single moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when the demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. I have loved using Game Time for not just sporting events, being able to go see the Braves, being able to go see different college football teams around the country, but I've also loved using them for comedy, theater, any sort of concert. I've used them for a Porter Robinson concert last fall. Same with Post Malone. I'm going to be using them hopefully later this year to go see some other artists that I really like. There's all-in pricing. There's views from your seat. You can take the guesswork out of buying your tickets to any event with Game Time by downloading the Game Time app, creating an account, and using code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, continuing along here on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. I really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. If you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so. Talking about Otega Oweh being an official early entrant into the 2025 NBA draft alongside new Kentucky point guard Jalen Lowe, transfer from Pitt. Excited about those two to see him in the blue and white, hopefully, this season. But as of right now, their status is up in the air. What's not up in the air, in my opinion, is Kentucky's improvement on the defensive end of the floor. I believe Kentucky has a chance to be one of the best defenses in the SEC next season, and I think there's some legitimate smoke as to why they could be the best. Obviously, last season, the defense was problematic at times. Kentucky ended up finishing 51st nationally in adjusted defensive efficiency, according to KenPom. That is great. The improvement was phenomenal, especially considering they were, 114th, 112th after their loss to Ole Miss in early February. Now, entering the portal, I think it was pretty clear. Mark Pope needed to go get two things. He needed to get rim protection, and he needed to get physicality. He needed to get some physical, hard-nosed kids that could take a bump and get stops at the rim. Evan Mia posted a tweet here yesterday afternoon with the top defensive players in the transfer portal based on predicted defensive impact. In case you don't know, Evan Mia, analytical website, just like KenPom. And he dropped the top 5 defensive players in the portal based on their predicted defensive impact. Number one is new Kentucky center Jaden Quaintance. He was a stud at Arizona State around the rim. One of the best rim protectors in the nation, and he is going to be in contention to be the Defensive Player of the Year in college basketball this year. I firmly believe that. He's going to have the chance. He's going to have the shot to. If I had to pick right now, I would say that he's first team all SEC, all defensive team for SEC. I think he's close to a first team all SEC type guy already, just overall, because of what he can do on the defensive end, because of how explosive he is around the basket, his wingspan, his athleticism, his aggression. He's number one. Number two is Morez Johnson, the Illinois transfer who's going to Michigan. He's also a freshman. Really interesting that Johnson is over this third player, who I'm kind of shocked by. It's Arkansas transfer Zvonimir Ivasic, former Kentucky Wildcat, transferring to Illinois. He's projected to be the third best defensive player out of the transfer portal cycle this year. Mohamed Diabate is your fourth player here. So Kentucky has two of the top five players here out of the transfer portal going to be incredibly impactful for Kentucky on the defensive end. Absolutely. They are going to be able to get stops with these two guys while they're on the floor. I think something that you also have to think about is the upgrade at small forward. You're getting, I think, more physicality in Cam Williams, who's also 6'8". You're getting somebody like Yelovich at that 6'11" that can play the 4 or the 5. You're getting Marino, who's going to be a really solid backup 5. Brandon Garrison, of course, as well. Kentucky, I think 1 through 5 is going to be significantly improved on the defensive end of the floor, and I think the staff is going to make it a priority to try and get these kids to buy in on that side of the ball, because I'm just going to go ahead and say it, because of the lack of elite shooting on this roster, there's going to be games this season where Kentucky does struggle. There's probably going to be a lot of games where Kentucky is not the best shooting team on the floor. In terms of just raw efficiency. But I think Kentucky is going to be an improved rebounding team. They're going to be an improved defensive team. And both of those things, with the tempo and pace that Kentucky plays at, are going to create more opportunities on offense. And you're going to see a more Florida-esque offense, right? You're going to see a more Alabama-esque offense where you're much better rebounding the basketball. And so therefore you give yourself more opportunities. And so therefore you still score a crap ton of points because you're still getting up a ton of shots because you're playing with that pace. Rim protection, physicality, and speed. I think those were the three things that Kentucky needed to prioritize, and they checked those three boxes, absolutely did. And Diabate and Quaintance are two of the best for all three of those things, and Evan Mia seems to think. According to his analytics, Kentucky has got two of the 5 best defenders in the transfer portal, which is huge for Kentucky. To be able to take Amari Williams out of this program and to be able to plug in the best defender in college basketball, might be the best defender in college basketball. You add all of this together, and Kentucky, I think they have a real shot at going from a bottom-tier SEC defense to one of, if not the best, in the conference next season. I think they will absolutely, on paper, contend for it. Rim protection will be so much better that I think statistically you're going to look up a KenPom halfway through the season and say, hey, Kentucky's like 3rd or 2nd here in the conference in adjusted defensive efficiency. They're playing their tails off, and they're protecting the rim a lot better than they did last year. So let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Does Kentucky get better on defense? Do they have the best defense in the SEC, or one of? Would love your thoughts on that. All right, we've got a transfer portal player here out of Miami that has been contacted by Kentucky. Going to talk about him in just a second. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action, because right now when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting super easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. Let's go Knicks. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine your live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You do not want to miss out on this. You can head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, wrapping up the Tuesday edition of Locked on Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. We've got an interesting player here that has entered the transfer portal and has been contacted by Kentucky. And I say interesting because I don't really know why they contacted him, possibly to be a Travis Perry replacement. I'm not quite sure what he would be contributing on next year's roster other than just depth. But Divine, and I had his pronunciation pulled up here. I'm going to try and pull it back up here again. I believe it's Ugochukwu. I believe it's how you pronounce it, is Ugochukwu. Yeah, it's Ugochukwu. Divine Ugochukwu. The Miami guard, a 6'3" guard that averaged 5.3 points per game, 1.9 rebounds, and 2.3 assists per contest. Shot 48.3% from the floor, while also averaging per 40. I mean, he would have been averaging 4.5 assists and 10.4 points per game. It's pretty solid until you realize what he was shooting from three. He was shooting 17.6% from beyond the arc. The kid shot very well at the rim. Took 2/3 of his field goal attempts at the rim. But outside of that, the kid was bad at shooting from beyond the arc. I think he was in the 5th percentile of catch and shoot guys. Horrible. He was really bad in spot up. The only damage that this kid legitimately did was in transition, and the fact that in 20 minutes a game he was able to collect a steal per contest coming off the bench for the Hurricanes. Miami awful last year, by the way. He was turnover prone as well, if I'm not mistaken, 1.6 per game compared to his 1.9 assists per contest. Statistically, this addition makes no sense for Kentucky. It makes sense if you only want to think about what Mark Pope could do developmentally, and if he wants to come ride the bench for a year. Other than that, he probably wouldn't play. Excuse me, trying not to sneeze here. Too late. It happened. Divine Ugochukwu. It's a bit of a weird call out here. I believe Kentucky's also contacted another guard in the portal in Ryan Forrest, who is averaging like 17 a game at North Carolina A&T, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think Kentucky will end up doing anything with Forrest, at least not right now. And I would strongly doubt it if they did anything with Ugochukwu. But, I mean, hey, it's a guard that can finish at the rim, that's played at a Power 6 school and is still very young and a lot of time to develop. Bad shooter, turnover prone, not the best defender. Bench depth that could be developed into something more down the line. I don't know. We'll see what Kentucky's doing here if they want to add him. Awesome. Travis Perry replacement. Kid's athletic. I'll give him that. Absolutely. And there's upside. There is upside with any freshman after they've played a year of college ball. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. Follow me on Twitter at LanceDahl_, and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and God bless.